Okay, I just got the thumbs up. I think we're ready to go. Thanks, Rosie. Okay, welcome everybody to our TAC meeting today. I'm Boyd Davis. I'm the vice chair of the committee. Robert Barnhill, who is our chairman, is not able to be here today, so they've asked that I take over today. So Ben will help me if I make any mistakes. And he asked that I give just a minute to Rosie to explain the microphones. Do you want to do that?
Sure. The main thing is speak directly into the mic so that our folks here on our Zoom call can hear us all. That's it.
Okay.
And there's, for those here in person, your mic has a button, and if there's a green light, that means it's on. If it's red, that means it's off.
Okay. Thank you for those excellent instructions. Okay, and hopefully everybody online can hear us, and we welcome everybody. Thank you, Steve, for the double thumbs up. Thanks for everybody that's put the technology together today so we could have this hybrid meeting. And those that are online, you can see I think there's 6 or 7 of us here in person at the meeting. Hopefully this will all work for us today. Okay, the first item on the agenda today is an action item. It's to approve the minutes from the March 30th meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those, and we'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So approved.
Okay, we have a motion from Steve Parkinson with Roy City.
I'll second. Jacob from Centerville.
Okay, Jacob from Centerville City, a second. Let's see, Ben, do we ask for all in favor, or do we just ask for any opposed? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it sounds like it's unanimous. Okay, thank you for approving those minutes. Item 2 on the agenda today is the tip business, and we'll turn the time to Ben Wuthridge.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have a little presentation that'll help us as we run through this. So today, maybe we'll wait till that pulls up. Oh, the center camera. There we go. Terrific. So to start off here, today is the meeting where the TAC makes the recommendations. Normally, today is the day that the TAC will make the recommendations to TransCom, that the information is prepared and goes out for public review and comment. The reason I hesitate right there is because, as you know, on our schedule, the regional council meets tomorrow to approve the projects that were recommended by the TAC to TransCom to the regional council. So our abilities here to recommend to TransCom that everything goes out and that we present you with the tables that we're showing hasn't been approved by the council yet. And so we're going to show a lot of virtual information. But then once the council takes action and we make the preparations to go out for public comment, the technical advisory committees will each get an email or a link that has all of the tables, any information for you. So to quickly review our process for our projects, the new projects that move into the tab. As you know, back in September, there was a request for letters of intent. Those letters of intent were then due back to us in October, and then a preliminary review was given, and a recommendation to the potential project sponsors was made that they prepare a project evaluation concept report. Those were due in the early months or early part of December. And then from that point through the end of March, we went through project review and evaluations. At the end of March, the Technical Advisory Committee met and made the recommendations to TransCom. We took that information to TransCom in their April meeting, and then TransCom reviewed that information and made recommendations to the Regional Council, which they'll have the opportunity to review and approve tomorrow. So that's where we are in the schedule as far as this particular process goes. So to remind all of you there on the different evaluation processes or things that are involved in that, we had the letters of intent, concept reports, a field review, and all that brings data for our evaluation and scoring of the projects. Then there's that other relevant professional considerations that are made, those items that just aren't measurable or items that aren't being identified in the data. We bring all that information to the technical advisory committees, along with the information from the staff to enable the technical advisory committees to make the recommendations. Now, there was a question last time we met that the TAC just recommends or rubber stamps what the staff is recommending, and that is not the case. Technical advisory committee makes those recommendations. And for the ability, so the staff spends 3.5 months digging into every one of the projects, talking with project sponsors, looking at all the information that's available. And when we bring our recommendations to you, that information has really been whittled through, moved around, and the projects that we think or feel that are the best for the available funds are the ones that are presented to the TAC. And hopefully the TAC sees that information as information provided to them as a resource, not as a direction. Then the TAC's able to take that information that has really been whittled down and identify the right projects. That information then is taken to to TransCom, and it is portrayed to them that these are recommendations that come from the Technical Advisory Committee. And then TransCom will review that information, or they did review that information, and will make the recommendations to the Regional Council. For your information, because now where the projects have been reviewed and approved by the TAC and TransCom, we want to show you on both of the urban areas, the Ogden-Layton urban area, as well as the Salt Lake West Valley urban area. So this body saw those projects that were submitted for the Ogden-Layton urban area. There was 43 projects that totaled more than $176 million in project cost. 28 of those projects that were submitted were STP projects, totaling more than 112 million, requesting STP funds. We had 5 projects that were recommended in the CMAC, or that were evaluated in the CMAC, submitted in the CMAC request, totaling more than 9.9 plus million. And then there were 10 projects that were submitted for TAP funding or consideration, totaling more than 3.1 million, with the available amounts that are shown on the table. In the Salt Lake West Valley urban area, there were over 53 projects, or 58 projects, excuse me, totaling more than $537 million. 30 of those projects were STP requests totaling more than 140 million. 12 of them were CMAC requests totaling just under 40 million. And 16 were TAP project requests totaling 7.6 plus million. So there was a lot of requests in both of the urban areas, well above the amount of funds that are available. So that responsibility of the TAC is crucial for identifying the best projects. Well, we had the evaluation sheets, and you had copies of all of these, the STP, the CMAC, and the Transportation Alternative Program, or the TAP program. And all of this information was distributed to you. The projects were identified and highlighted and recommended. Out of those projects, and in the Ogden-Layton area, there were 9 projects that were recommended for STP funds totaling more than 16.7 million. There were 11 projects in the Salt Lake West Valley area totaling more than 31.4 million. In the CMAC, oh, sorry, I forgot I included this. So these are the lists that we were advised not to send out yet until the Regional Council approves. So you can see the projects there in the Ogden-Layton area, the sponsors, the locations, the concepts, and the cost. And then you can see the projects that were identified in the Salt Lake area with the same format, the sponsors, locations, the concept, and the amount of funds that were recommended. In the CMAQ program, there were 3 projects identified in the Ogden-Layton urban area, totaling more than 3.7 million. And there were 5 projects recommended in the Salt Lake West Valley urban area for more than 6.3 plus million. A list of those projects identifies the sponsors, locations, the concepts, and again, the funds that are being recommended for both of the urban areas. In the TAP program, we had 7 projects that were recommended in the Ogden-Layton urban area, totaling more than 1.4 million, the most we've been able to program to date. We had 9 projects recommended in the Salt Lake West Valley urban area, totaling more than $3.7 million. A list of those projects are as follows. This sheet identifying those projects in the Ogden-Layton urban area. And this table identifying those projects that were recommended in the Salt Lake West Valley urban area. So this is a sample of the information then that'll be presented to the regional council for their approval. Where it'll go is the regional council will approve those projects to move into the draft programs. That'll enable us then to coordinate with UDOT and UTA and all the other federal and state funded projects and put them into the draft transportation improvement program. That program then will be presented to TransCom in June to go out for public review and comment. Any questions on any of the draft preparations to go out for public review and comment? Great. Yeah, we'll get to the,
Ben, could I just add something to what you said?
yes, please.
I really appreciate that you went, you answered that question from the last time about, you know, do we just rubber stamp the staff's recommendation? And we had some discussion last time about that, and that's not always been the case. There have been times where this committee has made a different recommendation from the staff's recommendation. And then there was also some concern about, you know, why aren't we all just voting for our own projects? And we occasionally have to support other sponsors' projects or nothing would ever happen in this group. So that does happen throughout this. Over the years that we've been involved in this, we do see, you know, each sponsor supporting one another as they have a project come forward. And so it does get spread around pretty well. And I think this committee has done an excellent job of making very good recommendations based on good information. And the staff has always provided very good information. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Boyd, and thank you for pointing that out. Thank you. So as Wayne alluded to then, where are we then in the process? So identifying our timeline, where we're at. This information, once it goes to TransCom, well, once regional council approves it tomorrow, and we make the preparations of all the material to TransCom in June, we'll bring up a calendar here to help us identify. TransCom then will meet on the 16th of June. At that meeting, then we will request permission to go out for public review and comment. That period will begin on the 25th of June and will conclude on the 30th of July. We need at least 30 days in that public review and comment period. During that time, we will have 2 public open houses tentatively scheduled right now, one on July 6th and one on July 13th. The locations will be nailed down for sure, but tentatively it's been at the intermodal centers, one up in Ogden and then the one downtown in Salt Lake. This technical advisory committee then will be reconvened here on the 27th of July in our next meeting, and we will bring any information that we receive to date from the public concerning any of the projects in the TIP. To receive recommendations from the Technical Advisory Committee to TransCom to move forward with the recommendations and approval. TransCom then will meet on the 18th of August to review all the information. And then the Regional Council will meet on the 25th to approve the 2023-2028 Transportation Improvement Program. At that time, we combine it with the other MPO's TIPs and the statewide Transportation Improvement Program. And all of that information then gets submitted to Federal Highways and Federal Transit for their review during the month of September. Then hopefully on October 3rd, the first Monday in October, we're functioning or we have an approved brand new TIP, the 23-24 or the 23-28 Transportation Improvement Program. Now, while all of that is wrapping up there, as all of you know, or those who've been around for more than a couple of years, the next round begins in that August meeting when we receive permission from the Regional Council to solicit for letters of intent, and the projects for the 24-29 TIP process begin, and it just continues forward. So there we are on the process, our timeline, and what's going to happen next. Are there any questions pertaining to any of this? Terrific. I think that's all I got, Boyd.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Thanks for that very good information and for the review of the schedule. Okay, item 3 on the agenda is a presentation about the Weber County Local Transportation Funds by Brooke Stewart. Is Brooke here?
I am here.
Okay, go ahead, Brooke.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can all see the presentation screen there. I just wanted to thank you all just for allowing us just a little bit of time to talk about our local transportation funds program here in Weber County and the upcoming funding opportunities that we have for our local municipalities and the transit district that we have in the county. First, as you mentioned, I am Brooke Stewart. I'm with Weber County. I am the local transportations fund manager. I help to oversee the process for prioritizing projects, programming funding, and then managing the local transportation funds program. So some of you might not be that familiar with the local funds or know much about them. So we thought it might be helpful to just explain a bit of the history behind the funds and the process that we have in place to program those funds for future projects. The funds are local sales tax known as the third quarter cent sales tax that the voters of Weber County approved back in 2008 to fund transportation and transit projects here within our county. Weber County also approved local highway and transportation corridor preservation fund at the same time, which allows for funding for the preservation of corridors for future projects. So the third quarter funds are made up from 0.25% of the third quarter cent sales tax on products and services within the county, and the corridor preservation funds are funded through a $10 fee that's paid with each motor vehicle registration. The statutes that govern both of these funding sources, they give the local council of governments the authority to develop and oversee the project prioritization process and the creation of our annual priority list that is presented to our county commission for approval each year. One of the key pieces that was developed and put in place to our process is that by the Weber Area Council of Governments, they adopted including the creation of a transportation subcommittee that reviews, evaluates, and develops the project priority recommendation that's presented to our full council of governments for consideration before that recommendation is made to the county commission each year. The transportation subcommittee is made up of 6 principal members, which includes 5 mayors from cities within the county and 1 county commissioner. Those subcommittee members are appointed by the COG and they can serve 2 consecutive years on that committee. We also have 2 associate members that provide insight and guidance to us throughout the prioritization process. Our associate members include representatives from WFRC, which we are so very fortunate to have Ben as our representative. We also have Brett Slater, the UDOT program manager for Region 1, We just can't even express how valuable these two are to our process and all the expertise and support that they provide. We're just extremely grateful for their willingness to participate and help us through that and for everything that they do. We have also several other county staff members on hand from different departments that are available that we can use as a resource to the subcommittee as needed. Here's just a little timeline of the process that we go through that eventually leads to establishing our annual priority list as required by the statute. As the fund manager, I organize and assist the subcommittee members through this process. We start our funding cycle in June each year by accepting letters of intent from municipalities and the Transit Authority. Eligible entities can apply for funding for transportation or transit projects that are related to regionally significant facilities or collector roads and that expand capacity, mitigate congestion, or preserve corridors for future projects. Applications and the project concept reports are then due in July. Once we've received all of those applications, we will arrange to take the subcommittee members out on field reviews to see the project sites in person and be presented with the project details by the project sponsors. Field reviews are something that we introduced just a couple funding cycles ago. And I just can't tell you how much positive feedback we've received from the mayors with the addition of this to the process. So it's been really great. I think that they like in piling in the van and just taking the day to go out to each project. It's really just such a valuable part of our process, and it really helps them to fully understand the project needs. There's just really nothing like standing on the small side of a highly traveled roadway with no shoulder, no sidewalk, to get a really great idea of traffic volume, safety concerns, and the project needs. We have really good participation from the subcommittee. It's near perfect, which is really hard to believe with their busy schedule. So we know that it's really beneficial for them during our process. So during those field reviews, the subcommittee members will score projects based on some established criteria items that we have in place and their experience and thoughts while out on the project sites. Sometimes there's just things that are just so specific or unique to a project area that you just really can't measure it with set criteria. So those field reviews provide the opportunity to score the projects with some thoughtful discretion. Once those field reviews are complete, we work with WFRC to pull all of the data that was provided in the concept reports and compile that onto data sheets, which we provide to the subcommittee for their review. The evaluation data includes some core criteria that the COG has adopted, some supporting data that's gathered in those concept reports, and then also combined with the data from the field reviews. So we'll review all that information as a committee, and we'll provide a staff recommendation based off of that compiled data, what funding we have available this year or that funding cycle, and then decisions or discussions that we've had with staff from the county attorney's office, treasurer's office, comptrollers, and then other professional considerations that we take into account. The subcommittee members have the option of modifying that staff recommendation. It's just a starting point, so they can modify that as they see fit. And then hopefully we'll be taking a priority list recommendation to the COG once we've analyzed and discussed with the subcommittee members. So at that WACOG meeting in the fall, we provide the COG with a presentation of all of the projects that were submitted and the priority funding recommendation that the subcommittee's developed. The COG will then approve or modify that recommendation with the goal of adopting a final recommendation that is presented to the County Commission for final approval. Once that priority list is adopted and funding agreements are in place for each of those projects, I, as the fund manager, will continue to work as a liaison to the project sponsors. I will assist them throughout the course of the whole project and process reimbursements for the qualifying project expenses. I try to be a really valuable source to everyone that's involved in the projects, from city staff to contractors, acquisition agents, to make sure that the sponsors are aware of policies that the COG has in place that they've adopted, and also statutes that are in place regarding the use of those funds. So I'm sure that many of you have probably experienced some of the difficulties that can surface with some of these projects, especially with the purchase of right-of-way. It's just really a whole other animal of rules and regulations that need to be followed. And we know it's not possible for every city to have a right-of-way professional on hand or an expert to assist them with some of those complicated acquisitions. So due to this, the COG's been really very conscientious, and we've created policies that we feel can help the cities be successful in this area. For instance, we require that certified acquisition agents that are on the UDOT right-of-way services pool be hired for all WACOG projects that involve purchase of right-of-way. Those acquisitions can get really complicated at times. I've even personally taken courses to become a certified agent myself, just to be able to be a resource to the cities and make sure that these local funds are being used accordingly. Corridor preservation and right-of-way acquisitions are just such a complex topic. And I mean, for reals, we could discuss it at length. So if anybody from your agency are interested in learning the rules that govern acquisitions, I would highly recommend taking a few of the classes that are provided by the International Right-of-Way Association. They have a local chapter here. They have a lot of qualified and highly trained individuals. They're a great resource. You also have the UDOT's right-of-way department. They're super helpful and a great resource. So there's just a lot of trainings out there that are provided, and some of those International Right-of-Way Association trainings are provided locally at the UDOT complex. Moving on from that, I could go on and on and on about right-of-way, but Weber County's just been so fortunate to have had the citizens realize the benefit to our communities by voting to approve this local option tax. Since the tax was approved back in 2008, the local transportation funds have collected just over or just under 150 million in total revenue. That's both the corridor preservations funds and sales tax funds combined. That doesn't include leveraging millions of dollars in federal and state funding that many of our local projects have been able to secure with these matching dollars. This has resulted in the completion of 39 projects across our county, 23 projects that are currently in process, and 10 more projects that are programmed for future years. I'd like to just show you a few examples of some projects in our communities that the county's been able to complete with the help of these local funds. We have a project out in Harrisville City. It was the Larson Lane. It was second phase of Larson Lane. It was completed a couple years ago. As you can see, the facility was originally a narrow road with one travel lane going in each direction. And here's an aerial of just what a massive project this really was. It spanned from Highway 89 going east to Washington Boulevard. And then this is the final improvements. It shows a travel lane in each direction, center lane, new bike lanes, just a really nice facility. This is a great image of the project linking into the first phase, which was some intersection and turn lane improvements that were also funded with these local funds. The local funds were used to purchase the right-of-way for this project, and the widening, the actual construction, was a combination of surface transportation funds and local matching funds. It just really turned out to be such a great project and really needed in the area. Next, we have a project in Ogden City. This is the 20th Street. It was primarily one travel lane in each direction. And this was also a very large undertaking. I like to add in these pictures just because I think they are hilarious and so fun, very entertaining. These contractors were super good sports working on Halloween. I can't think of a better advertisement for your business than a hardworking hot dog, right? Anyway, here's the final product. You can see the widening improvements that were made along this facility. This is the second phase of 3 phases. The first phase of 20th Street was funded with local funds, and then phase 2 and 3 were a combination of local, state, and federal funds. So phase 3 is coming up soon. We have another project out of Marriott-Slaterville City. This is one of the county's more rural cities. They were experiencing some flooding back in 2011 during some spring floods, which impacted traffic. And along this facility, they also had mobility impacted quite a bit by dredging spoils that were placed on the shoulders and the travel lanes from the canal that runs alongside this facility. So there was also a sharp S-curve down there that they wanted to correct. So the city received some local funds to realign the roadway and replace the bridge. This project constructed about 0.3 miles of new roadway, mitigated that sharp curve, and raised the roadway out of the floodplain. The bridge was replaced, and they constructed a rock wall to protect the wetlands there. And then the remaining portion of that old roadway was converted for use as a pedestrian pathway. So this was just a really great project. And finally, we have just another project to highlight. It's out of West Haven City. The city was able to widen and improve 2 full miles of roadway on 2550 South. This roadway is a highly traveled facility in our county. It's an important east-west corridor. It links to I-15. There was only one travel lane in each direction, really narrow, no shoulder. This one was a little unique because we completed it with a cooperation agreement between West Haven City and Weber County. You can see the project was crosses over into unincorporated Weber County here, and we were able to get that agreement together where West Haven City worked with Weber County to get this constructed. Here's the final improvements, which includes center lane, bike lanes, curb gutter, sidewalk, also an excellent facility. Here's just a combination of several other little pedestrian safety infrastructure improvements that were installed with some alternative funding sources in the local funds. Just a small sample of some many great projects that we've been able to complete in our county, and we're super, super happy about this program. So with that, we hope you now know just a little bit more about Weber County's program, how the local funds can improve your communities. If you are in Weber County, we are currently accepting letters of intent for projects. Those letters of intent are due June 6th. And if you're from any other county or have any questions about our process, right-of-way acquisitions, trainings, or if there's anything else that we can help you with, my door is always open. Please feel free to contact me anytime via email, phone, stop in. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Great, thank you, Brooke. Does anybody have any questions for Brooke right now? Okay, thank you very much. This is very important information about these local transportation funds. So we'll move on to item 4, which is a similar presentation from Davis County. Jeff Euler will present some information about the Davis County local transportation funds. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Ben invited me to come down today and talk about Davis County's program a little bit. I decided to come down live because I heard these guys were serving hot fudge sundaes down here. There's only a handful of us here live. I get down here to find out that we're having hot turkey sandwiches and homemade cookies. So guys like Steve Jackson that are on this call, you really missed out today by not being here, Steve. That goes for you too, Bryce Wilcox. So I don't have a presentation today. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our program. Brooke, thank you for your comments. Weber County should be considered the experts in this thing. They've been at it for quite a while, and I've reached out to Brooke a number of times to
Enjoy. All right.
I've reached out to Brooke a number of times to get insight and background on what they've done and what's been successful for them. Davis County is still in its infancy in this third quarter tax business. We are just embarking on our third year of funding now in our program. We have up to date, we have funded 16 projects over the last 2 years to the tune of about $37 million. We have yet to complete a project. We have several projects that are very near completion right now. And so our success stories are still on their way. Our funding is very similar to Weber County's in that our funding has to be spent on new construction, new road projects. It can't be used on operations or maintenance projects. We allow projects that build roads, acquire right-of-way, complete environmental assessments and engineering plans. Our program is open to any city in Davis County and UDOT and UTA. Our projects, road projects have to be functionally classified on the state map and that's considered to be minor collectors and higher. One of our criteria is that we want projects that are shovel ready or close to that. And we have an expectation that projects can be completed within a 2-year time frame. Our process starts in January and February with letters of intent. We have just completed and accepted our letters of intent for 2022 and have invited those cities that applied to fill out full applications. Those applications are due the end of June. And we work, once we get those applications in, we work closely with Wasatch Front Regional Council. Their staff and our staff get together and send the projects through a scoring matrix, and we rate and rank those projects. We then get together with a subcommittee of the Davis COG, which is made up of mayors of the different cities, and we discuss all the projects, and we make a recommendation to the full Davis County COG, and they make a final recommendation to the Davis County Commission. And those final decisions are made usually in October, November. And then we make the announcements on the awarded projects. Our program has about $12 to $13 million a year. So it's not a ton of money, but it's real money. And I know that a number of cities have reached out to me and have been grateful that this money is available, because you can build real projects with this money. The thing that I really want to emphasize is that this is one funding source. Wasatch Front Regional Council has money, the state and UDOT has money. We really encourage and look favorably upon cities and projects that have leveraged funds from multiple sources. And you'll score a lot better if you have reached out and shook the bushes and tried to round up money from multiple funding sources. And in some instances, a project has been on Wasatch Front's list and is down the road a few years. We've been able to push some projects around and bring them up in the process because we've got additional funds available and we can get those funded earlier. The other thing that we really encourage is that projects that are regionally significant, and our definition of that is that it crosses 2 or more jurisdictions. So we like to see projects that are being proposed by 2 or more cities. We do require a minimum 20% match on all of our projects, but we also encourage and look much more favorably on projects that come in with higher matches but it is a minimum of at least 20%. So let me see if there was anything else I wanted to say. The other things that that we look at in our scoring matrix is I talked about regionally significant facilities, creating new capacity, improving congestion mitigation, improving mobility. We do allow for corridor preservation and buying right away. Our program also allows active transportation facilities to be considered as well. I think that's all I have to to say, Ben. I'll take any questions. You can reach out to our office in Davis County if you have any questions about our program. Bartley Matthews is our new transportation planner in our office, and he's going to be heading up these projects and helping me out with it. Reach out to us if you have any questions. Would be happy to talk to you about any upcoming projects or anything that you've got to work on. Okay.
Okay, well done, Jeff. Thank you. Both of these funding sources are so important for our county, so thank you for all that information. Next on the agenda is a presentation by Kaysville City. Is Josh Belknap with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen there?
yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. All right, is that showing up there?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Well, as was mentioned, my name is Josh Belknap. I'm with Kaysville City. Want to thank Ben for the opportunity to share a little bit of information about something we're working on here in Kaysville. It's still kind of in its infant stages, so not a lot of exciting information to share in terms of things actually happening on the ground. But I guess before I do that, I just wanted to kind of echo from Jeff Euler's presentation there, just how important these third quarter option funds have been for Kaysville. Obviously, we can only speak for Davis County, but they've been extremely helpful to us, and Jeff and his office have been instrumental in us pursuing and being able to see some of those funds. So thanks to Jeff and the county and the folks at WFRC that help with that. Kaysville City in about late 2020 started kind of throwing ideas around about changes that could be made to Kaysville's Main Street. This is generically termed the Kaysville Main Street revisioning process that we're working on right now. Like other main streets in other cities, Kaysville's Main Street has historically and traditionally been kind of the community center. Growing up in Kaysville, I've seen Main Street change and evolve over a little bit of time, but it's traditionally been a place for people to shop, for people to seek out entertainment, schooling, worship, etc. It's been the focus of Kaysville community since its inception. As I mentioned, as it's changed over time, there's kind of been a feeling that it's maybe transitioned from more of a gathering place or a focal point to kind of a scenic byway as people are trying to get from A to B. Main Street is still incredibly important in Kaysville, but elected officials, like I said, in late 2020, started asking that question, what is kind of the future of Main Street in Kaysville? I'm not a particularly artistic person. I have a hard time visually seeing what can be done. I love plans in terms of what changes can we make, improvements can we make, but as my wife calls it, kind of artsy things, how can things be spruced up? I just don't have that ability. So we brought together in early 2021, after kind of brainstorming some ideas and some potential, looking at what other cities have done. We brought on a consultant, Township Range, to assist in further kind of vetting out and fleshing out what options are there, what could the future look like. both in terms of the aesthetics of things, but also as it affects development in the area, redevelopment in the area, and the RDA itself for downtown Kaysville. That kind of started with kind of a mission statement, a vision, and a survey process, reaching out to stakeholders in the area, typically business owners and some residents. Early 2021, we were able to get UDOT Region 1 involved. We had a site visit where Rob White, Chris Chestnut, and some others from Region 1 came out with local elected officials, city staff, and our consultants to just really start trying to put pen to paper. And that started not just an artistic visioning, but UDOT participating in formal traffic studies and evaluation of Main Street through the area, not just the downtown area, but Main Street. The vast majority of that in Kaysville is a UDOT roadway, and they started evaluating it in its entirety. This is, like I said, a project that's in its infancy. We're still going back over ideas and concepts and trying to flesh those out with stakeholders. We want to find something that is going to work for the community. And I think the general vision is, these kind of sound like buzzwords, but we want a more vibrant city center, a place where people are drawn to, a place where people want to be to get together, whether that's shopping or eating or entertainment, etc. The scale isn't something like you're going to see like Farmington Station. This is still small town area, but incorporating some changes that not only bring people here in greater volumes, but the way they get there, making it more walkable, trying to make it more active transportation friendly. That's kind of the focus and the mentality that the city is taking in this approach. And we have concepts of what the changes to Main Street will look like, and that is far from final draft over the next year or so. I think we'll continue to flesh these things out as we talk with stakeholders, as we work with UDOT, looking at community needs now and trying to understand what those community needs will be in the future as we're updating our general plan, talking with the county about our RDA, school district about our RDA. So it's been kind of a neat process thus far, with the help of our Mayor Tran. Like I said, that lack of artistic vision with myself, I'm starting to understand what this can be. And I think one of my biggest difficulties has been like, well, I see Main Street for what it is now, but what can these changes do for bringing in new business or new opportunities in the future, changes that kind of respect the heritage of Kaysville, but also allow for future growth and development. So this isn't something that we're utilizing any funds from WFRC on currently, but this is something that we anticipate that, obviously funding is going to be the driving force in a lot of the decisions that are made. So we'll definitely be hitting Ben up, and hopefully the TAC committee will have an opportunity to look at what Kaysville is planning in the future as we work with UDOT. So that's all I've got, Ben. Pretty short, but I don't know if there's any questions or comments, but that's what I have.
Great, thank you, Josh. Anybody have any questions for Josh? Okay, great presentation. Just don't make any changes to that Kaysville movie theater. That's my favorite. So
Never. No, yeah, that's my family. My family would kill me if I did. So
yeah, that's a favorite spot. Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is a report from Brett Slater with UDOT Region 1. Brett, are you with us?
I am. Let me share my screen.
Hey, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So what I wanted to present today is that they'll give me my, perfect. I wanted to just kind of show everyone how to get to our STIP app. So the communities could kind of, so anytime you had a question about what UDOT was doing with our program, the TSP projects, which are the transportation solution projects, our pavement projects, anything that you knew how to come in and find them. So the easiest way to do it is you just come and search UDOT. You know, come up to our main web page, which just looks like this. It's udot.utah.gov, and then you just scroll down. And you're going to see a picture of the Capitol. This is usually what I look for. You look for the Capitol. You're going to see fourth one down says Transportation Commission. So you just click on that. And then you just scroll down again until you'll see right here, it says the 2023 draft statewide transportation improvement program. You come here to where it says projects. You click on that. You just give it a second to populate. And then what you can see here is you can see you have region 1, region 2, region 3, region 4. So you can look across the entire state and see exactly what UDOT is doing in any area of the state. But we're focusing in on region 1, so we'll click on region 1, and then we're going to look at proposed. These are the projects that are being proposed. Up here on the left-hand corner, you'll see a thing that says programs. Inside here, you can scroll down. You can look at any project you want. This is the TIF projects. These are the TSP, or the transportation solution projects, our pavement projects. So a lot of times the cities want to know, well, where are you guys doing work? Well, click on your pavement. You can look in high volume or low volume roads. Let's look in high volume, and then just come over here to make sure we're on region 1, commission approved. And now you can see what projects have been approved by the commission and which ones are, and when they're going to be planned to be started. And if the project has a green button over here, that means there's a 1-pager on it. So we can just jump in here on this I-15 US 91, just picking any project, and it'll take you to a 1-pager. Just a little bit of usually these are pretty simple projects. This is laying a bonded wiring course out here. Pretty simple project, but you can just see what we're looking at. So this project is looking, it'll be constructed in 23. So this allows you to look at any of our pavement projects that we have. So now let's go back to the ones that a lot of times people ask us about, kind of our outlining projects. Those are the transportation solution. These are projects that don't fit within our pavement program, our structures program, or some of our traffic and safety HSIP programs or signals. They'll fit under transportation solutions. Here, let's come into proposed. These are the ones that are being proposed for next year. There's 13 projects. The funding is about $20 million. And you can also, as you walk into here, you can see that each project has a 1-pager on them. So just grabbing one to show you what it kind of looks like. This is the chain up area on US 91. We're looking to do chain up areas on both sides, but this project funds only the northern side of it, or the Wellsville side, to put a chain up area right before you get to the large S curve up there as you're climbing the hill. So the 1-pager will just kind of give you a brief synopsis of what the project is, where we're at in the phase. So you can see that we're looking at design and environmental this year, going to construction next year on this chain up area project. That was really it. I don't know if I really wanted to walk through each project. I think the cities, knowing where this is probably more beneficial. The TSP projects are all over the region. They vary from wildlife fences up near Riverside to filling in a ditch on 4700 West out in West Weaver. to a boat check and maintenance turnaround area up in Rich County. So there's just a number of projects that we deal with the TSP. So you can see where they're at, but knowing where the pavement projects are or the structure projects will just kind of help the cities. You can come in, you can navigate here to see where we're doing work. And if you ever have a question or if you want to know what we're doing, please ask. And I can help navigate you to this page at any time. So hopefully that was beneficial.
Hey,
And that's all I got.
thank you, Brett. Appreciate that great information and showing us the website. Does anybody have any questions for Brett? Okay. Brett, thanks for being with us today. Okay, next on the agenda is Kip Billings. He'll talk to us about the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. Kip, take it away.
Okay. Let me get my screen shared. So are you seeing my screen now? Someone wave at me.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, and you can hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, I wanted to make you aware of a new funding program. It's part of the new transportation bill in investing in something that starts with J Act or something like that. It's called Safe Streets for All. You may see it abbreviated as SS4A, and you'll probably be hearing more about it. It's kind of new, and it may not fall under the TIP process that we have now. This may be outside of that. So the funding mechanism will be a little bit different. We're still learning more about it. But let me go through and explain a little bit what it is. The motivation is for improving safety on the roads. This is national data that you're seeing. The dark blue are freeways, and both by number and rate of fate of crashes, the freeways are by far the safest roads we have. This is focusing on fatal crashes and serious injury crashes. The bars that I've highlighted are arterial streets in our urban area, where we have a much higher rate, like twice the fatality and injury rate on our arterials as we do on freeways. And just the total numbers are a lot higher for those crashes. So these funds are intended to address that aspect of safety on arterial roads. This falls under the Federal Highway Safe Systems approach to addressing safety, and which is sometimes abbreviated SSA, not to be confused with SS4A. So we're throwing a couple of different confusing acronyms at you. But the idea with the Safe Systems approach is a paradigm shift that death and serious injury is not just something we accept as part of driving on the roads. That is obviously not acceptable, and there's a lot more we can do to alleviate that. It takes into account the human factor that people make mistakes, and those mistakes should not result in serious injuries and fatalities. Recognizing that humans are vulnerable. There's a shared responsibility. This involves the enforcement and engineering and design, lots of different agencies involved, that safety should be proactive, not just reacting to where crashes may have occurred. We want to look at the roadway system as a whole and identify where problems can be alleviated before they happen. And just addressing a safety issue with one aspect is not enough. We need to look at the whole system, the users, the vehicles, speed enforcement, the design, all of these things come together. So this SS4A program, they've set aside $1 billion for each fiscal year from now to 2026. So that's a total of $5 billion. These grants are competitive on a national basis. So there's not a formula for each state. We need to go and compete for those funds. The funds are intended, designed for local governments. The idea being state roads have other funding mechanisms available to address safety issues. Whereas in many cases, the local roads, that we don't have those resources. So that is the target for these funds. And it is for roadway projects, but the roadway, that includes the sidewalk, the bus stops, as well as the travel lanes in the roadway. These funds require a 20% local match. And probably most importantly here at the bottom, before you can apply for funds, the Federal Highways wants a comprehensive safety action plan in place. It's not required, but strongly recommended. You could go out on your own and apply for these funds. But in all the communication for Federal Highways, our chances for receiving funds are much, much better. Not only the first year, but for the following fiscal years, much better if we have an action plan in place. An action plan is a plan aimed at preventing fatal and serious injury crashes. It'll include a goal and a timeline for reducing those types of crashes, including an analysis by location and severity of crashes. There will be a significant outreach effort to get input from the communities, what safety improvements are needed. This all needs to be data-driven. It's not just to champion favorite projects, but to look at where the safety risk factors exist and what strategies will improve those. And then finally, a mechanism for reporting the results of the safety projects and strategies that are implemented. So what's happening next? The next step is to prepare a grant. That's due by September 15th, but agencies are encouraged to get that in much sooner than that. And WFRC has been requested to lead on this effort. So we've initiated that, and that's moving forward. Along with applying for the grant, we will need to put together a work scope for an action plan. And that will have to go out to bid and select a contractor to prepare that action plan. Following the grants being submitted, the grant applications being submitted to Federal Highways in September, Federal Highways will make the awards mostly for action plans this first year. And each locality that's approved for an award would get a minimum of $200,000 to do a action plan study, a maximum of $5 million. The action plan will identify safety projects and strategies and prioritize those. So then the following fiscal year, we would submit requests for grants to implement some of those projects and strategies. And those implementation grants have a minimum award of 5 million, a maximum of 50 million. So that kind of outlines what this new Safe Streets for All program is. It's a great opportunity for cities and counties in the region to address some of the safety issues that you may have and get make some improvements to the transportation system. Are there any questions I could try to answer?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to just supplement with a little additional information. So the idea of having a comprehensive safety action plan is a regional comprehensive safety action plan is to increase the likelihood of success for local governments applying for actual implementation projects in the future. The guidance from Federal Highway Administration specifically states that multi-jurisdictional plans will be more successful in competing for funds, as well as in helping local governments compete for funds. So our intent is to come back after, assuming we're able to get some funding for this plan, this safety action plan, is to come back and engage local governments over the winter and maybe beginning in the fall and into winter, and get your input on development of this safety action plan, and then hopefully put you in a position where when there's another notice of funding opportunity for this grant program next May, presumably, the local governments will have a regional plan in place and can draw upon that and reference that as they apply for this discretionary grant program in the next go around and even in subsequent years. So thank you.
I've got a question. This is Daniel with Ogden. Are there maybe there's been a lot of information today, which has been fantastic, and maybe I missed it. Is there any constraints with respect to classification roadways that are eligible for this funds? Does it have to be collector and higher?
For the, go ahead, Kip.
The one restriction I know of is if it is a state highway, since the funds are not intended for states, that you would need written consent that the state is cooperating with that effort. So it can be on a state highway, but the local community would need to initiate that. Wayne, I think you were going to comment maybe on FAU roads.
Yeah, so presumably these funds, since they are federal funds, will be specifically for federal aid eligible roadways. But that's an excellent question, Daniel, and we will confirm whether that's the case and let you know. Our presumption is that it will be limited to federal aid, those that are on the statewide functional classification system that Jeff mentioned earlier. But we'll confirm that and make sure we communicate that as well. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, this is Alma, UTA. I'm wondering what the scale for the regional plan should there be a separate plan for the Ogden-Layton area and a separate one for the Salt Lake area? And then also presumably Utah County MAG might be pursuing this as well, or is it something that all three areas should get together and work together on? I don't know if we know the answer to that, but it just a thought.
We're still working through that. Our approach is to, right now, is to do the 6 counties associated with Wasatch Front: Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, Morgan, and Tooele, and southern Box Elder counties. At this point, we're in, the idea was to do that as one study and then maybe divide it up by the two, kind of north and south, the two areas somewhat associated with these TAC committees, the urbanized areas, but it's not limited to urbanized areas. At this point, we're not partnering with MAG. The time constraints they've given us are already challenging. And someone asked me to back up a slide, but I don't know where I was in the presentation, so I'd be happy to go back to whatever slide was in question.
Mr. Billings, I think we got what we needed. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, it sounds like got all the questions answered. Thanks, Kip, for a great presentation. Look forward to seeing some more information in the spring. We're to the final item on our agenda. Just some other business. One thing we need to discuss is the meeting, the format for our upcoming meeting. So the next meeting will be July 27th. And as a committee, we need to discuss and decide if we want to continue with this hybrid format, or if we want to do an in-person or a full online meeting. And as Jeff Euler pointed out, if you do come in person, there's an excellent assortment of food here. So we're all going to enjoy that as soon as this meeting's over, if we can find it. I think Ben has it hidden somewhere. Any thoughts from the committee? Is everybody okay with this hybrid format? Is anybody opposed? We got 2 thumbs up from Roy City. Anybody opposed to this this format? Okay, how about any thoughts from WFRC staff? Does this format work well for you?
It does. As long as we have the hybrid format, then we'd recommend that we have the in-person or the base here at our office and then hybrid from here.
Okay.
I think it's working good, Boyd, to just continue like this.
Okay. You know, Ben, I did have one thought. There are some cities now that also have the same technology. West Point City, for example, has the ability to do this from our office. If that's, I think this location works great, but I'm just throwing that out there. If we wanted to have a meeting more centrally located for some of the other cities, if they wanted to be in person.
That's good.
West Point City, we'd offer our facilities to do this as well.
Wonderful. So, thanks, Boyd. I think we can consider those.
Okay, so it sounds like the next meeting will be a hybrid format and the base location will be here at WFRC's office. And let's see, Ben, does that mean, do we need to talk about the refreshments, or is that only an option if we're doing a full in-person?
It is. When we have the base here, we'll provide the refreshments here.
Okay,
But you know, you off from West Point,
we got good
we
refreshments
could
out
put
there.
a menu out there. It's
I'll get Jeff's help. Okay, so no need to worry about refreshments for the next meeting. Is there any other items of business that need to be brought before this committee?
Boyd, if I might,
Yes,
not
go ahead.
only is that a refreshment assignment, but it identifies the city for the next presentation, just to give them a heads up.
Okay.
So,
So Layton City will be on the agenda to do a presentation to highlight their city or a particular project.
correct.
Is that right? Okay,
Thank you.
Chair, there's also a message from Steve Parkinson. He said that Roy City could also support an in-person or hybrid meeting.
okay. Okay,
Awesome.
there's a couple of options out there then. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, it seems like most cities during the pandemic kind of got up to speed with this kind of technology. So I'm guessing there's several locations where we could do this. But for now, we will stick with WRFRC's office. Okay, any other items of business? Okay, we want to thank everybody for participating today, and thanks for joining us online. And those of us here in person, we'll go have lunch. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.